So you're going to buy your building. You've decided you want to be an owner. You don't want to just lease space. Okay. How are you going to do that? Where are you going to get the money from? Well, we've talked a little bit about financing already, but let's talk about financing a facility. If you're going to use an outside lender and you don't have all the cash yourself, you have all the cash yourself. It's easy. You walk in, you pay for it, you're done. But if you're using an outside lender, there's going to be a ton of hoops you're going to have to jump through. One, first of all, the business deal has to make sense to the lender. They will only participate to a certain extent with you in terms of the amount of money they're willing to put in. If you're dealing with a conventional lender, like a bank, something like that, then it's probably going to be limited to 70% of the loan to value ratio of the property, which means that if the property's worth $1 million, they'll loan up to a maximum of $700,000. You have to come up with the other $300,000. If you're working with the government, there are a number of programs there that'll fund you up to 95%. But there are a number of fees involved with that. The banks still administer that. It's for equipment and property. They will administer it on behalf of the government. But you still have to come up with down payment, and you have to come up with a coherent financial plan that says, I'm going to be able to service the debt. So once I take that mortgage on, how do I pay it back to you? These are the criteria that become very, very important in terms of your ability to be able to have a lender participate in some or most of the cost of your facility. So that's just the business case. Now, once you've nailed the business case, and it's, yes, they've agreed, the business concept looks good, they see that you've got assets that they can secure against in the event that things go bad, and you will, by the way, have to personally guarantee this loan. There's no way around that, unless you're a not-for-profit. A not-for-profit sometimes can avoid doing that, but a for-profit, for sure, the lender will want you to personally guarantee the loan, and I can't even negotiate you out of that. Sorry. So you've got assets. The business case looks good to the lender. They've said, yeah, we're going to go ahead and support you in this. But we now need to understand the disposition of this piece of property. So I'll relate back to my conversation about leasing. Can you use this piece of property for the purposes you're wanting to do? So number one, is the zoning appropriate? And if the zoning isn't right on, but it's a permitted use within the zone, then can you get a variance? What are the chances of that? Banks are going to want to know that before they put their money in. Otherwise, you're not going to make the payments. They're going to have a piece of property they're going to have to sell, and maybe they get all their money out, maybe they don't. So the zoning or permitted use. And then, can you get a variance or conditional use permit or special use permit? The name changes depending on the jurisdiction you're in. Wonderful. You can do all those things. They will ask for that. Then they're going to ask for building inspection. Because they want to know, when you go into this building, how much money do you have to put in to make it work for your purposes? And they have their own people behind the scenes who can evaluate exactly how much it costs to operate your business in a location and improve the space to allow you to operate in that location. So they want a building inspection. How's the HVAC? What's the electrical look like? Is there any mechanical repairs that need to be done? Doors, windows? Are you going to make improvements inside? Are you going to refurbish the entire area? If so, what's all that going to cost? That goes into the banking equation. Now, that's the building according to the bank. Then they're going to want to know, okay, what's the environmental situation in here? And they'll probably want to have you do a lead and asbestos test. And they'll want, if the property is large, they'll want a soils test to understand, is the property been at any point in the past defiled by DDT, petroleum products, radon? All of these things cost you money when you buy, and there's no way around it. They're going to want to know if you are going to be servicing the public, and you're going to need greater water resources than the building that you're buying used before for. Is the water line large enough from the city on the way in? If not, you're going to have to enlarge that water line. If you're going to put more people on the property than the previous owners, they're going to want to know you have enough bathrooms, and the sewage line is large enough. You might have to enlarge the sewage line. I was in one situation where the building was so far off the road that they required a fire hydrant be installed by our client in order to meet code, fire code. You may have to sprinkle the building if you're going to use it for a different reason, meaning put sprinklers in, fire suppression. So many of these things the bank's going to want to know before they fund, because they want to know that what's the cost to occupy. So that comes from the building inspection. That comes from your projections in terms of what you already know, and then the building inspection will tell you things you don't know. So there we go. That's what the bank's going to want to know. All of these pieces. They'll want a title survey. If there hasn't been an Alta title survey done in 20 years, they want to know, because they want to know exactly what is the dimensions, the size, shape of the building and of the property. Because at the end of the day, if you are unsuccessful on this piece of property, they want to know that all the tests have been done to make it a bona fide, saleable piece of property. And they're going to make you pay for it before they'll lend you the money for you to buy it. That's how banking works. So it's a bumpy ride. You want to close as quickly as you can. You'll initially get a proposal letter from a bank, which is a not commitment letter at all. Once you get that, it could be a discussion paper, it could be a letter of intent, stuff like that, but it's not binding on the bank. Once they get through all the rest of it, you'll ask for a commitment letter from them. They will then give you one of those which specifies all of the details of your agreement. How much you're paying, how much they're going to put in, what your interest rate is, what the term being, how long are they going to fix that interest rate for, the amortization period, which is how long are they going to amortize your payment over, so 25 or 30 years, so that you only pay principal divided by the number of years of amortization, or sometimes they use months. So that would be, let's say it's a $3 million purchase. They give you a 30-year amortization. That means every year you pay $100,000 in principal, and then you pay interest on the however much money they've lent you. Let's say they've lent you $2 of the $3 million. You pay interest on top of that principal, and let's say the interest rate is 9%, because it's pretty high right now. Could be less, but let's use that number for now. So that's $180,000, $2 million times 9%, $180,000, plus another $100 for the principal. That means your mortgage payment is $280,000 a year. That is factored into whether or not the bank will lend you the money, but that's all specified in the commitment letter. Once you've got the commitment letter in hand, you must do everything you can to close as quickly as possible. The reason being, banks are very, very conservative. And if something happens in the market to scare the bank, they'll pause. They'll put a pause on it. They don't care if you lose your deal. They'll put a pause on it. That's why I always like to have two banks competing for my business, if possible. But if you only have one, and in many cases that's the case, close right after you get the commitment letter as quickly as you can. Close the deal so that nothing can disrupt that bank. So that's the intricacies of buying a piece of property. And there are lots more. I'm giving you a very quick, looking at now, 8.5 minute version of here's what it takes to buy a piece of property for your business. But it's much bumpier than this. But this will hopefully help you to avoid some of the errors. But you got to have good people working for you when you do this. Just let me say that. They will save you tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in errors that you would otherwise make if you didn't know what you're supposed to know when you're buying a building. Okay, so that's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. It was a little dry and a little bumpy and a little uncertain, I know, and maybe frightening to some, but that's part of the deal. If you want a piece of property, suck it up, get on with it. We'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.